Now, if you're a brand new Christian, maybe in the last 7, 8, 10 years you become a Christian, you're figuring out that Satan is after you. And he throws all kinds of things across your path to deter you, to mess you up. He tries to convince you that this isn't real. He tries to convince you it's not worth it. He'll bring depression, discouragement. He'll bring all kinds of trials your way. But I want to tell you, God is for you. And the Bible tells us to watch out for his attacks. So it must be possible for us to know when he's attacking, to even see when he's beginning to attack. And so the more mature that we get, we should be able to say, man, Satan is coming against me, and begin to work with the Word of God to work around those things. So watch out. That's our sermon series for right now. Watch out. Top struggles for new Christians. I asked over 100 people about their top struggles when they were a brand new Christian. And so we came up with a list of 6. We went through, what's my purpose? That's a question a lot of new Christians are asking. Number 2, how do I read the Bible? It's such a big book, 66 books. How do I get into the Bible? How do I read it? We did that. And then, why do I give money to God? He's in heaven. We're on earth. Why do we give money to God? We talked about that. And then we talked about why do I keep sinning? As a new Christian, I thought once I got saved, I would never have to struggle with sin anymore in my life. Like I said, Satan is coming after us. He wants us back in his clutches. And then today, how do I find good friends? This is going to be a very instructive sermon for us, so take note if you want to, especially if you're looking for some wisdom on how to find good friends. There are lots of people out there who might be so-called friends, but they don't end in good places. Wisdom is known by her children. Just think on that. Wisdom is known by her children. And so it's not just what people say, it's not by their behavior that we choose friends. So we're going to look at that today. So in the survey that I got all these responses back, and I want to just share a few of what people said to me when they responded. Some said, a new Christian, they're wondering about dating or finding a significant other, maybe finding a spouse. Unbelieving friends, giving resistance to the gospel message. One said, eliminate anything in your life that will tempt you to turn back from following Jesus. This may include breaking off relationships with people who do not support your decision to follow Christ. One said joining a small group or pursuing a relationship of accountability with someone is good. Finding friends who will hold you accountable to the gospel. Maybe finding somebody who's a little bit older than you to help hold you accountable as well and show you the ropes. Routine involvement in a group of Christian friends, letting go of old habits, knowing where to plug in, church, home, Christian friends, etc. And then maybe even not just coming to church, not just being friendly, but are you being a friend in church? It's one thing to be friendly, but do we have friends in church? You say, well, no, I don't like any of them. Well, keep looking. So we're going to talk about this today, or some principles of friendship today that the Bible lines out for us. Here's an idea from Proverbs 18:24. A man that has friends must show himself friendly. And there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. I remember I was in high school and the Sunday school teacher was talking to us about friends, and he said to us, if you want to have friends, you must show yourself friendly. Don't bemoan the fact that you don't have any friends. Don't get on your pity party and, oh, nobody called me to ask me to go to lunch today. You be the one. You call someone. You write a letter. You send a text. You become friendly and you will have friends. Don't just sit there like a bump on a log. Whatever that is, what kind of oak tree you are, a bump on a log, you're just sitting there. Instead, say, God, help me to show myself friendly. Proverbs talks about this as well. A righteous person is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. What is that saying about selecting friends? Cautious. Here's another way to say the same thing. The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Be careful. Not everybody wearing a suit and a tie and carrying a Bible is a preacher. And when you're looking for friends, they seem kind of nice, and check into them before you give your heart to them, before you become a friend. I'm talking about guy with guy, just a guy friendship or a girl with a girl friendship. I'm not talking about marriage only. I'm talking about all of our friendships. Be careful about who you align your life with, because it can lead you down some wrong paths. We're going to look at that together today. Here's Proverbs 22. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. Be careful around hot-headed people. You can learn their ways. Every time something goes wrong, they're just, they have no fuse. They're high already, hot. Be careful about being around those people. That's what Proverbs tells us. I want you to open your Bibles, if you would, to John chapter 15. I want to dig into these verses just a little bit. John 15, verses 12 through 15. This is Jesus with his closest friends. Jesus is talking with his closest friends here. Jesus had friends. Did you know that? And we're going to see what that looks like. He's in the upper room. This is his last discourse to them before he goes to the cross. And he says in verses 12 through 15, look at this with me. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I've made known to you. The idea of friendship in the Old Testament is sharing secrets, sharing the innermost part of who you are. And you don't do that with everybody. I would not recommend that. I would say find a trusted confidant, somebody who is spiritually minded, and you can share everything with them once you trust them and they trust you. That's what friendship is. Jesus didn't hide anything from his disciples. He laid it all out there. Why? Because he was calling them friends. You should be able to tell a friend anything and your friend won't judge you. If you got a friend judging you all the time, that's not the friend you want. You don't want condemnation. You want conviction maybe, but you want encouragement from your friends. So how do you find good friends? We're going to get into that as well. Jesus didn't just buddy up with everybody. Look, this is from John 2. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, all the people, for he knew all people. And he did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. Jesus was very discerning. Jesus knew what mankind was like, and he didn't just throw himself out to the crowd. He was very cautious. Jesus didn't trust everybody, and he was wise. I got some of these three principles from this fellow named Dr. Henry Cloud in this book, Necessary Endings. It's a great book. Sometimes you have to have necessary endings in your life, necessary endings in business, in friendships, whatever you're doing. Sometimes you just have necessary endings. And here's three ideas he gave me from this. There are three paths. There's the wise path, the foolish path, and the evil path. We're going to see these three come out of Scripture here very clearly. And so which door do you go through to find friends? You go, does it matter? Yes, it does. You try going through that blue door, you're going to be hurt pretty bad. You mess around with that red door too much, and you're going to be hurt as well. But I'm going to tell you this yellow door, this wise door is where we want to go. So let's look at that. So Proverbs 24:5, a wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. So whenever a person is wise, they're gaining strength all the time. That's the idea of a wise man, is that he's building on his knowledge. He's building on his strengths. He's building on his character. He's looking at goals for his life and how to get better as a person, getting better every day. I want to be wise in how I relate to people. The second door is wisdom is too high for a fool. In the assembly at the gate, he has nothing to say. The fool has nothing to say. He's airheaded. He's open-minded to everything. He believes everything. He's a fool. No moral compass in his life. And then finally, the evil. Be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their hearts devise violence, and their lips talk of trouble. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you're around people that are negative and cranky and just full of negativity, that shows you what their heart is. For out of the heart come it's the wellspring of life. And if your heart is full of negativity and angst and anger, that tells you something about what your words are saying too. Your words are going to follow right after that. So be careful about what you allow into your heart. Let no evil in. So here's the idea. The wise are led by the power of the Spirit. The fools are led by the power of the flesh, and the evil are led by the power of the demonic. We do believe in demons. There is a Satan in the Hebrew. It's the adversary, the one who stands against God. And so Satan is working against, and he's working through people. And I look at it this way. Every person I meet has a spirit behind them. Every person I meet has a spirit behind them. Either God's spirit or an evil spirit. And so you can tell a lot about a person by how they're talking to you, how they're acting, their behavior. Be careful about those who have demonic spirits or those who have just negativity around them all the time. Don't let those be your close friends, or you will become like them. Be careful. Proverbs 9:8, do not rebuke a mocker, or he will hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. Instruct a wise man, and he will be wiser still. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase his learning. You can tell a lot about somebody if you are showing them how to do something in a better way and they hate you for it. They're a mocker. But a wise person will receive instruction. Again, don't get confused. This is not intelligence. We're not talking about an IQ here. All the smart people, raise your hand. We're not talking about that. We're talking about wisdom. What is wisdom? It's the godly application of knowledge. See, some people know the right thing to do, but they never do it. They're not wise. They're smart maybe, but they're not wise. They're evil. When you know the right you ought to do, then you do it. That shows a wise person. It seems like that, if you know you shouldn't, it seems like things with Eatos, like you shouldn't eat like Doritos and Tostitos and Fritos and burritos and taquitos. Anything with Eato, you can't eat those things. If you want to be wise, you stay away from those things if you're trying to be in good health. Knowing that and doing that are two different things. So there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom. This is very interesting scripture. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. They go after it. They go after wise counsel. James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. That's a promise from God. Any of you feel like you need more wisdom? Are you smart enough to raise your hand right now? No, I'm kidding. We all need wisdom. And you want more? You say, God, I need wisdom. I want to know how to apply godly principles in my life. There was a couple I knew of. They were going to get married, and the young man came from a home that was full of, just all kinds of sin and abuse and alcohol and broken home, broken marriage, everything. And he became a Christian. He met a Christian woman, and they wanted to do their life differently. But he didn't know what to do because he didn't have any model in his life of that. So what did he do? He's very smart. He called somebody he knew who was very good with finances and buying homes and mortgages and interest rates. He called that person and he said, could I have an hour of your time? I want to buy you lunch and I want to bring a folder. I've got some questions I'd like to ask you. And the person said yes. And then he called somebody who was really good with their spiritual life. They seemed like they were really doing well spiritually. And he called that person, can I meet with you for an hour? I've got some questions. Yes. Then he called somebody who was really good at this or that. He just picked all these different categories. Was that wise? Yes. He was ready to learn. And so at each of those meetings, he would ask the questions, he would take notes down. And because he wanted to build his life on godly principles. And he said something very wise at the end. He said, will you pray for me? And they would. And he said, can we meet again in about a month? I'm going to try to put these things into practice in my life. Would you please meet with me one more time? And all of them said, yes. Wise? Yes. It's applying godly wisdom in our life, godly instruction in our life. So the wise, they're kind of like a bucket with the bottom intact. You can pour a lot in, it stays. The foolish are like buckets with holes in the bottom, and the evil people are like buckets with a snake in the bottom. And so you got to be careful. And so you're choosing friends, choose friends who are wise, that are following God's words each day of their life. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Here's an idea. A whip for a horse, a bridle for a donkey, and a rod for the back of fools. Is Pastor, you going to whip us this morning? No, I'm just reading you the word. I'm just telling you that fools only learn through hard measures. Fools only learn by running their head into the brick wall. Fools only learn by running broke, and then how do I get help now? See, don't be a fool. But for fools, it takes pain to get them to learn. Some of you had kids like this. Some of you have grandkids. Maybe you were this kid. You had to go and do it your own way, and somebody said, you don't do that, it's gonna be hard, but you did it anyway. That's a fool. That's running after the way of the fool. Some people have to pay a dumb tax. There's a dumb tax some people have to pay. Like you say, don't run through that briar patch, it's gonna hurt you. I'm gonna go see myself. And off they go. And they run through and they get bad grades. Hey, if you study, you get better grades. I'm not gonna study, I'm gonna graduate. No, you're not. Their kids are running amok and they're running everywhere. And when their kids are at the bottom or in jail or wherever, then they turn to help. Somebody else has to pay their dumb tax for them, right? That means they're paying their own dumb tax, but the wise person lets somebody else pay the dumb tax. Jobs, same thing. Finances, marriage, church. Some people, their marriage is going downhill and it's on the verge of divorce and they don't seek help until the last minute. And they're like, well, my wife left me. Pastor, can you help me? Sure, we'll do our best. But what I'm saying is, that's the dumb tax. And the fool has to pay a dumb tax. Don't pay any taxes you don't have to, folks. Avoid every tax you can legally. Don't pay a dumb tax. That's what the fool pays. Fools are proud. They have a false reality. The planets revolve around them. Reality adjusts to them. You say to a fool, hey, you need to study or you're not going to graduate. That's not true. I don't have to study and I'll graduate. Well, really? Let's go try it. That's the fool. He doesn't listen to advice. He doesn't listen to good instruction in his life. And he tries to make reality adjust to him. Don't confuse me with that, pastor. Don't confuse me with that, mom, dad. I'm not going to listen to that. That's what the fool says. I'll run my head into the wall on my own. Leave me alone. And sometimes you have to let them pay their own dumb tax. And they will. How about this? A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not listen to rebuke. So here's the deal. If you have somebody who's foolish and you give them advice, they begin to mock. They begin to mock. If they're a fool, you give them wise instruction. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, how's that working for you? And they try to turn it around and work on you. Parents, beware of this. You can be dragged into some very improper places. You give instruction to your child and they're like, well, no, and they say something like an idiot, like a fool. And you get down on their level and you begin to fight with them as a kid. And they pulled you down into the realm of the fool by how you talk to them. Don't do that, parents. You say, this is what you're going to do. Now do it. But you never need. I mean, kids, they have the gift of spiritual discouragement at times, don't they? They can just, But I'm telling you, stay with it. Don't get on their level. You stay up here. You're the wise person. You're making the good decisions. Parents, please stand up in your homes, right? And tell them what's right. Wow, I felt like we're in an election here. I'm like, yeah, that's great. We're going to vote for you. What I'm saying is, don't go down to their level. The wise person says, this is the right way we're doing this. No matter how much flack you get, how much anger you get, how much resistance you get, you say, this is the right thing to do. Let's do the right thing. And so you do that. So parents, don't get down into the mud with your kids. Don't let them pull you in. It sounds like two little kids fighting in some homes. Well, you're dumber than I am. No, you're dumb. You're dumber. You're the dumbest. And you're like, where did that come from? You're both down in the mud together, getting dirty. Parents, stand up. Be the wise person. Don't entertain this mocker. Don't get called into that little catty place where you're not going to lose anything but your respect, okay? A lot of respect. Fools make fun of guilt, but the godly acknowledge it and seek reconciliation. That's good. A fool has no empathy. Others walk behind to clean up the messes. They're selfish. Those who are foolish, you have some of these in your home. Oh, I don't want to do it. You do it. And so it's terrible because you're like at a circus and you're following the elephant and you've got this scoop shovel and you're cleaning up all the mess behind the elephant. And this fool in your house is making all these terrible decisions and you're cleaning them all up. And you're thinking, how did I get into this spot? Why am I still doing this? And how do I get out? See, be careful. The fool will pull you into a mess, literally a mess. Fool is irresponsible, but surrounded by overly responsible people. Have you noticed that? The fool says, I don't want to do it. You do my laundry. And so you're doing that. We got to have clean clothes. Oh, and you do my homework. I'm going to make an F if you don't help me. And somehow fools surround themselves with overly responsible people. And those overly responsible people do everything for them and enable them to stay in their foolishness. Boy, this might be able to be preached in 2022 somewhere in a church, probably, if we would use this. Think about this. They're like helicopter parents. They're just, I'm going to help them. And, boy, you need that. Oh, what are those projects? Those science projects? And you got to do everything for them. So you do the whole project yourself, and then you get a C on it, and you're mad as a parent, like, I put hard work into that. And your kid should have been the one doing it. Let your kid get an F and learn the lesson. But when you helicopter parent and you're keeping a fool, instead of saying, you know what? You're going to get in trouble. You better do it. Now you can help your kids. Help your kids. Yes, help them. Encourage them. Yes. But don't do everything for them. You're creating a fool, keeping a fool. And it'll catch up with them. It'll catch up with your kids. It really will. I'm telling you the truth. It will. Women want to marry a man, not a man who acts like a child. Sometimes there are young men that they never become a man. They never become a grown man. They just stay a kid all their life. And there's nothing wrong with video games. They're fun. I love them. They're fun. But if that's all you're doing, what's going on? You need responsibility. You need to grow up. A fool stays young. A fool stays by the stool, especially on Saturday nights. But a fool will let you do everything for them. And then you know what? A woman doesn't want to marry a little boy. A woman wants to marry a man who acts like a man. And so women, you agree with this? Some of you women are trying to talk to your husbands like you're mad and you're cleaning your guns. What I'm saying is that I think there's a time for men to grow up and be men and say, I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to say the right thing. I'm going to get a job and I'm going to keep a job. I'm going to get a job and I'm going to keep a job. That's called responsibility. When I was a child, I acted like a child, Paul says. But when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. We got to put childish ways. Woman or man, we've got to put childish ways behind us. We've got to grow up. We've got to take responsibility. And if you're trying to find a friend, that's where we're going this morning. If you're trying to find a friend, find friends who have jobs. Find friends who are living responsibly. Find friends who are going to church regularly. Find friends who have an idea about their bank account and how to keep their bank account out of zero all the time and at bouncing checks. I mean, there's called wisdom in our walk with Christ. I'm giving you some very practical steps to not only finding friends, but you being the kind of friend that somebody else wants. Amen. Men are like trucks. They drive straighter with a load. Think about that. I mean, you get the semis, these guys tell me when they don't have a load on, the wind blows and they move all around on the road. When you have a load, I mean, you got to pull. And I think men learn to be men when they've got a load on them. Get some responsibility. Get a job. Work 50 hours a week. Sweat by the brow. I mean, get your bank account built up. Find a godly person. What I'm talking about is you want to find friends who are working hard, who do have jobs. How do you find good friends? Look for people who are responsible. Look for people who are living for Christ each day. Wise, foolish, evil. Last one, the evil. Now we talked about the wise, the fool, now the evil person. Wisdom will save you from evil people. Did you catch that? Wisdom will save you from evil people, from those whose words are twisted. These men turn from the right way to walk down dark paths. They take pleasure in doing wrong, and they enjoy the twisted ways of the evil. Their actions are crooked, and their ways are wrong. Look at those words. Twisted, dark, wrong, crooked. That's the evil person. Beware of evil people. A fool may hurt you and say, oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. Or the evil person hurts you and says, I meant to hurt you. Stay away from evil people. Stay away from evil people. You think, oh, it's no big deal. I can do it. No, they're evil. This youth pastor friend of mine, he was a teenager. He had 3 buddies who were all really smart like him and one guy who was the fool. He was around because fools are fun. Fools are fun because they don't care about the responsibility. They don't care about the consequences. They'll do dumb things and everybody can laugh. But these guys are really smart and they have this fool in the car with them. And my friend Stephen didn't know what was going to happen, but this kid had all these fireworks sitting in the passenger seat and Stephen had his window down on the driver's side. He lights all these fireworks, a whole string of them, and throws them out the window. And Stephen's like, what are you doing? And the guy's laughing. Oh, isn't that funny? And Stephen said, knock it off. Stephen didn't know that there was a police officer a couple blocks back watching the whole thing. Pulls Stephen over. And the officer comes up and says, may I see your license and registration, please? Stephen said, yes, sir, but it was him. It was my passenger that did it. And the officer said, who's driving the car? I am, sir. License and registration, please. He gives it to him and he goes back to his car. And Stephen now begins to hound, what were you thinking? Throwing those fire. He goes, isn't that funny? And Stephen said, if I get a ticket, you're helping me pay for it. He said, no, I'm not. You're driving the car. See, the Bible says, walk with the wise, you become wise, but a companion of fools will come to harm. Walk with the wise, you become wise. A companion of fools will suffer harm. Stephen got a ticket. The friend wouldn't help. Stephen paid the whole ticket. Stephen had to pay a dumb tax that day for hanging out with fools. But an evil person wants you to get hurt. An evil person wants you to lose. An evil person wants you to be hurt. An evil person abuses. An evil person uses. Be careful of evil people in your life. The wise, what do you do with them? You give them time. Give them time. You want to spend time with them. The foolish, you give them boundaries. You give them a job. You're asking me for money? No, you're not getting any money. You go out and work a little bit, and I'll match your money. You don't just give them stuff. Brother Paul helped me a lot with this at Friendly Chapel. He said, never give money out to people on the street because they don't know how to use it themselves. All they're going to do is they're going to waste yours. Get them a hamburger. Get them a drink. Go sit and talk to them, but don't give them money. Why? Because they can't handle money themselves. They wouldn't be out there if they could handle money. So never give money to a homeless person. Give them food. Give them shelter. Give them advice. But don't give them money because they're just going to blow it. So you give boundaries. That person on the side of the road could be a fool because they're not doing what they should. I'll get off on a sidekick there. I'm going to stop. I'm going to say this. With foolish, give them boundaries. With the evil people, give them nothing. Give them no time. Give them no energy. They'll deplete you, and they'll use you and abuse you and leave you on the side of the road. This is biblical instruction I'm giving to you. The wise, they get great gas mileage, like cars. They give you a lot of usage. Foolish, they get poor gas mileage. They get gallons to the mile in their cars. But the evil person, they get no gas mileage. They're driving around cars that don't move. They're evil people, and if you get in with them, you're going to be hurt. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. I've said it to my kids so many times, they can probably say it back to me in the way I say it. Show me your friends, and I will show you your future. The other idea here is this. It's kind of the same idea. Flip to that next slide for me, if you would, please. I think this battery stopped on me here. There we go. Show me your 3 closest friends, and I'll show you your future. Walk with the wise, you become wise. Here's an idea. Hang out with 3 godly people, and you'll become the 4th. You looking for good friends? Just listen to what the Spirit's been saying to the church this morning. Look at your friendships. Look at the people you hang with. They say you're really the accumulation of your 5 closest friends. If you don't like that accumulation, you think, ooh, I don't like some of those people. Get some new friends, right? Next slide here. Wise, foolish, evil. How do I find good friends? Don't go through the blue door. Be careful on that red door. Spend time going through that yellow door and saying, Lord, I want wise friends who are going to lead me to Jesus. Next slide here. Jesus, friend of sinners. All of us have played the part of a fool. All of us have been evil in our lives at times. We needed saved. We needed redemption. Some of us are fools now, and we're trying to learn, we're trying to grow. It takes pain to make us grow. But all of us need Jesus. He's a friend of all kinds of people. Jesus is a friend of evil people. He'll pull them in. Jesus is a friend of the fools. He wants to pull them. Jesus is a friend of the wise person. But it's only the wise who are really benefiting from the relationship with Jesus. The fools are squandering it, and the evil aren't even coming close. We all need a friend. And I don't know where you are in your walk with Jesus today. Are you a wise friend to others? Or are you a fool? Are you evil? Select wise friends.